very simply put for me, it's a gigantic deal because I think the Cowboys just became one of, if not the most balanced offense in all of football, just like that. Not only that, it made the Cowboys draft this year seem brilliant. It was good prior to this morning. Now it's brilliant. Offensively, I believe 2 years from now, the Cowboys will have 3 all-pro offensive linemen: Tyler Smith, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Booker. Balanced on the offensive line. You got run-blocking offensive linemen. You got pass-protecting offensive linemen. Running back, I think the Cowboys have a 3-headed monster. Shady can attest to this. It's going to have to be running back by committee. Yeah. You got a super explosive rookie in Jaden Blue. I watched all of his games at Texas. That's my alma mater. You got a power back in Javonte Williams. You got a third down and receiving back in Miles Sanders. Yeah. Tight end. You got a guy that can catch and can block. Jake Ferguson, you can split him out wide. You can put him at the end of the line of scrimmage. And then CeeDee Lamb. Now that George Pickens is there, hey, George Pickens, you're the 50-50 threat. You're the deep ball threat. CeeDee Lamb, you're going to work on nickel backs in the slot. You're going to work on Sam linebackers. You're going to work on will linebackers. CeeDee, you work on the inside. George Pickens, you work on the outside. It's going to be much harder to double-team CeeDee Lamb now that George Pickens is out there. I fervently believe with this acquisition of George Pickens, the Cowboys just became maybe not the best offense in football, but one of the most balanced offenses in football. Yeah. Name another team that has a top 5 receiving duo, simultaneously has a run blocking and pass catching tight end, simultaneously has power backs and receiving backs while simultaneously having an incredibly stout offensive line. This is no small deal and this is no small move, America. This is gigantic for the Cowboys. James, how big a deal is it to you?
Absolutely. I applaud you for your take, but I applaud Jerry Jones. Thank you for going out here and making a move. We've been saying number two wide receiver for a very, very, very long time. And not a number 2 wide receiver in Ringo that a lot of people don't know nothing about. You go out here and you give up a 3rd-round pick to go get George Pickens, who I believe is going to be a superstar in the National Football League. I applaud Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys for making this move. Because, yes, you just made it easier on Dak Prescott. You just made it easier on CeeDee Lamb. You made it easier on your offense because you brought a guy in that can deliver on the outside. And what I mean on the outside, I mean you just line George up at X, and it don't matter who over there, he knows how to win. Now, like my colleague says, it comes down to number 4.
Yes, sir.
And we will get into that. But with Jerry Jones, what he did, I don't want to hear anybody say you got to help Dak out anymore. You got to do this, you got to do that, because he's helping him. And he gave him 2 bad dudes right now to throw the football to. It's all on number 4 to deliver. But I love everything about this trade. Everything you said is true. They are going to be a balanced offense. Now it's just all on number 4 if he can deliver.
Yeah, it's all on number 4. And we've been trying on this show to get Jerry Jones to listen to us. And take a listen to what we said on the facility last Tuesday about George Pickens. But why not take a huge swing for the fences? And I know Jerry's talking about, but George Pickens. Like if you can handle George Pickens off the field, what he can do on the field, he's a completely different receiver, James, than CeeDee Lamb. So it gives you a speed guy who's great on go balls, 50-50, stop route, slant route, and then you got CeeDee, which you can move on all over. Jerry Jones must listen to the facility. We've been trying to tell him they need a receiver too, and it doesn't need to be in the draft. They missed out on T-Mac, the guy that went to the Carolina Panthers. It's pretty much the same type of receiver. Now, George is faster, but this is a huge deal for me. Like, I'm not going to say this is a earth-shattering division title winning, but I think this puts Dallas squarely in the 10, 11, 12 win category. And we've been talking about it. The pressure that a true, I would say, 1B receiver in George Pickens, and then you have CeeDee Lamb, the pressure it takes off a quarterback needs to be talked about. It's not talked about enough. Right now, in last year, okay, CeeDee Lamb got 25% of the targets, which is a very, very high number. Now you bring in George Pickens. Now you have Jaden Blue from Texas, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. You have probably a top 8 offensive line toward the back end of the year in the Dallas Cowboys. Offensively, it makes a lot of sense, right? You have George Pickens. This is what Dak does well. He throws stop balls. That's George Pickens. He throws slants well. He throws 50-50 ball back shoulder balls. This is what you get. And it's really the first guy they've had, James, since Michael Gallup. No. And I think for me, that's what you see Dak do. No. And it takes the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. So you have CeeDee Lamb getting open. You can work in the slot, like James was saying. You can put George Pickens at the X. But they're also taking a little bit of a gamble here, Acho, because first-year head coach Brian Schottenheimer and staff, they're betting big potentially on getting the best out of George Pickens, right? Because there's the off-the-field stuff with George, right? Comes with a little bit of baggage. He's immature. He's been fined like 7 times last year. All this stuff plays into it. He's going to the biggest brand in all of sports, right? So how does his off-the-field demeanor help his on-field play? We'll see what happens, but right now it's a huge deal for me.
Why are you scratching your head, 2-5? Cowboys just made a move, got a receiver, too. We've been talking about Jerry Jones for the last 3 months, and you scratching your head?
Yeah, I'm just confused with you guys, man. You know, because
you guys,
everyone wants to blame Jerry Jones for everything, right? And now today you're getting some love today.
Yes.
we got to give him some love. Yes. Got to.
Well, first of all, answer the question. It's a great big deal, right? George Pickens is one of the best wide receivers this game has seen, and I think he's phenomenal, right? 50-50 balls, he does all that. Big, capable plays of making big plays all the time. That's him. Okay, enough with that. This ain't the first time Jerry Jones has got the Cowboys, Dak Prescott help.
No.
Like, what are we talking about here? I remember when the same guy that y'all used to hate on, talk bad about Jerry Jones, I remember him bringing, like 2 or 3 years, having the Cowboys one of the best rosters in football. I'm going to go to defense first, then go to offense. On the defensive side of the ball, I mean, a couple years ago, they were phenomenal, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do I need to go through all them names?
No.
Stephon Gilmore. Okay. Defense was phenomenal, right? And then on offense, they signed Brandon Cooks as your number 2. When that day happened, everybody was excited, was they not?
Was.
You had Tony Pollard as your number 2 running back with Zeke Elliott. Everyone's like, oh, that's a great move. The offensive line was way better than it is this year, okay? And we talk about Jerry Jones finally giving some help. He's always got help. That's not the issue here. The real issue here is the quarterback. Because all this help he's got, that y'all pat on the back, say how great they are, when they get to the real game and they play well for 16, 17 games, and they get to the playoffs, all the help don't matter. Having a great defense don't matter. Having a great number 2 receiver in George Pickens don't matter. Because number 4 matters. And when the lights get bright, he does not deliver.
We'll talk about him, but my question for you here is this. Prior to this trade, Shady, and you were the first one to call it last year when you said, I don't even think the Cowboys going to win 8 games or 9 games. I scoffed at you. I said, come on, Shady. They got 3 straight 12-win seasons. Prior to this trade, I would have agreed. Cowboys are a 7-8-win team. Dak might get them to 9. After this trade, 2-5, I think the Cowboys are now an 11, a 12-win team. Dak, to your point, hasn't succeeded well in the playoffs, but prior to this trade, I don't even know that they would have made the playoffs. Does this trade move at least the needle for you during the 18 weeks of the regular season to get them there?
They always play good in the regular season.
Not last year.
Not last year.
Dak was hurt. He was hurt. I gave him. He was hurt.
Before he was hurt, he was 3-5.
I know, but he was hurt. And when you hurt, that matters. I just feel like now it's like, what are we talking about? We're going to always talk about the regular season? He's good in the regular season. He's one of the best in the regular season. That's what he is. The Cowboys ain't a bad team. They're never just a bad team.
They were 3-5.
They had a bad year last year, man, and the quarterback was hurt. Cool. I'm going to give you that. Okay. But what I'm saying is it's bigger than that. Like, if we're talking about the Jaguars, the Jets, the Falcons, the Saints, I don't know, who else? The Bucks. Regular season matters. It matters. It really does. But for the Cowboys, it don't matter. We talking about the postseason.
So this trade doesn't move the needle for you?
I mean, I think it makes the offense better. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb together is obviously a great matchup. I love that. I love to see that. But, like, we sit up here talking about the regular season.
It makes them extremely more competitive, right?
Cool. You're right. Yes.
To even have a chance to change the narrative for Dak, right? We all agree he doesn't play well. You have to make the postseason,
correct,
to even remotely get there.
I mean, but if we were gamblers, right, and most of us are,
yeah, none of us.
If it said and Dak's, I don't know, his last 4 years or his next 3 years, we would bet that he would make the playoffs. We would bet that. I would bet that. Yeah. Dak healthy, right? The Cowboys, they're gonna make the playoffs. They beat. No matter how bad they are, they're always gonna beat the Giants twice a year. That's what they do, right? They might split with the Eagles here, wherever it goes. They might split with the division, but they're gonna win some games. But, enough though. Can we get off the regular season, please?
The only reason
you don't think George helps him in the playoffs? I'm asking.
I think he's a really good player. It's not about George, though. Yeah. Y'all keep asking the wrong questions. George is. CeeDee Lamb is a really good player.
Yes.
George Pickens is a really good player. These are good players. We're not talking about them. It don't matter about them. It matters about the player making $60 million a year. That every time we have a good team or a really, really good roster that y'all love to talk about every other day, cool. Because they had other rosters that was really, really good, just like this one. The difference was what, James Jones?
4.
So I don't want to like change the question. I hate doing it. When we talk about the Cowboys, it's the same questions. Did they get better? Yes, they got better. Yes. Are they more talented? Yes, they got more talented. Are they going to win the playoffs? Because it don't matter what George Pickens does or CeeDee Lamb does, how open they are. I watched number 4 with great talent lose the games because him in the playoffs does not play well.
speaking of changing the question, let's change it to now look at the Steelers side of things. Because the Steelers, they got a 3rd-round pick, they got a 5th-round pick. George Pickens being one of the best wide receivers in football, you could suggest that the Steelers got fleeced. You only got a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick for GP, a dude that averages about 1,000 yards a season with the likes of Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, only Russell Wilson for 7 or 8 games, and he put up those types of numbers. Did the Steelers get robbed?
No, the Steelers didn't get robbed. This was a situation to where you just signed DK Metcalf to a lot of money. You probably don't want to sign George to a lot of money. So it's one of them situations to where what can we get for George Pickens?
Yep.
Because we don't want to sign him to a long-term extension. And they got a 3rd and a 5th round, Good people come out of the 3rd round. You know what I mean? So maybe they could get another guy in the 3rd round next year, They still have a solid receiver room. They signed Robert Woods. You have Austin that can run, and then you have DK Metcalf. But, no, I don't think they got robbed. I think this is exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted to do. You don't want to pay him and extend him. Go ahead and get you something for him. You got a 3rd and a 5th round. I don't think they got robbed. And we got to see what he's going to do because as happy as I am for Jerry Jones, I'm worried for George Pickens playing with Dak Prescott. I am. I really am. And I know the main reason why is because Dak Prescott does not let those 50-50 balls go. That is George Pickens' game. George Pickens is not about to create a bunch of crazy separation. George Pickens is if the dude is right next to me, I am wide open. Dak Prescott has shown us that he will not throw that ball, right? Dez Bryant, one of the greatest ever to go up and make the 50-50 catches. With Tony Romo, he had 1,300, 1,200, and 1,200. In 2016, when it was Dak Prescott's first year, he had 700. And then the next year with Dak Prescott, he had 800, which means Dak Prescott ain't letting that ball go. Dak Prescott has to let the ball go in 50-50 situations to George Pickens consistently, not every now and then. And that is why I'm worried. I always remember Kurt Warner told me, I play with Torrey Holt and I play with Isaac Bruce. Them dudes' separation was something stupid. Wide open. I went to Arizona and I had 2 dudes named Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden. And he said, I was there for about 4 weeks. And the coach looked at me and said, what are you doing? And he said, what you mean? That's open. With Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden. If the dude is, that is open. And he said, I started letting the ball go like, that is open. Like Larry and Anquan is making the play. Dak, you have to let the ball go. I'm worried for George because I've seen a great one in Dez Bryant. Stats fall off for Dak Prescott because he was not letting that ball go like that. Are you going to let that ball go to George Pickens?
But even in this situation, though, it was more of, I think, George didn't want to be there either, though, right? You on a team, and I'm the number 1 receiver, right? And I'm up for a contract. You bring another guy here, and you pay him before I get paid? I'm out of here. And then you can see like how it worked out. Like the trades, it's not a really robbery. It looks like that George want to get out of there. It looks like this still okay. We're gonna let you go.
Yeah, I think for the Steelers it's simple. You either get something for George Pickens today, or you get nothing for him tomorrow.
And pay him $30 million. Exactly
right. He's a not a 1st-round pick, so there's no 5th-year option. So if you don't get a 3rd-round pick for George Pickens today, in 18 weeks into the NFL season, he is walking away for free. Get something for George Pickens today, get nothing for him tomorrow. It reminded me of that time that the Baltimore Ravens allowed Orlando Brown to be traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm scratching my head saying, why would you trade somebody to a conference rival? Well, it was simple. They couldn't afford Orlando Brown, and he was going to walk in free agency after the year. Either get something for Pickens today or let him walk for free tomorrow. So I can't suggest they got robbed because George would have left in 9 months from now for nothing.
And that's sort of how I feel. I definitely don't think they got robbed. If anything, they broke even. I think they slightly may have won the trade. It's really hard to see, like, right now because we see what George Pickens is. But there's a reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers traded George Pickens. They don't want to deal with the headaches. Is 900 yards and 4 touchdowns averaged through the last 3 seasons, is that worth $30 million? Is 900 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that's what the Steelers are saying. They're saying absolutely not. They got a third. But I'm saying that's what the Steelers are saying. And honestly, the Cowboys, okay, they have the contract issue with him coming up. He still needs to get paid. Do they tag him? What happens if he doesn't? So I think both of them won. Here's the thing, though, that I think that the Steelers have this longer-term master plan, and it definitely didn't include George Pickens, and it's playing into that. Because right now, they're set up with massive, massive draft capital in the 2026 draft, okay? a first-round pick, a second-round pick, 3/3, 2/4, 2/5, 2/6, 1/7. You know what's really good next year? The quarterback class. And so they have some room to wiggle and maneuver with all of those picks. That's a ton. They have their eyes on next year's quarterback class. Yes, their receiver room's going to suffer. There's no doubt about it. They're going to lose out on 900 yards and 4 touchdowns. Maybe they go and they raid the Packers receiver room where Aaron Rodgers may sign. You never know, right? They could go 1-1 because maybe Aaron Rodgers feels more comfortable. But I like what the Pittsburgh Steelers did here. They don't feel like he's worth the headache. They feel like he's not worth the $30 million, and they have their eyes on next year's quarterback class. It makes a lot of sense for me.
What up, YouTube family? Welcome to the facility. Thanks for watching, and you better be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to get more highlights from the show and all of our exclusive content.